Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Real Sports Updates here, back again with another video. So I kind of wanted to touch on this a little bit. I think this topic has really gotten lost in the shuffle, over the past few months. But Justin Herbert is going to get paid. Now, obviously, the seasons, this coming season is going to have to go by, but he's going to get paid. And he's already solidified himself as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Already one of the best quarterbacks in Chargers franchise history. And if he does, if he continues to be amazing this year, I would already say that he probably would be the best quarterback in franchise history, just based off of the success, the numbers, everything that he's been able to do, in 3 years' time at the end of this season. So, but he is going to get paid. And like I said, this topic kind of did get lost in the shuffle, but I kind of want to touch on it a little bit, so that everybody knows where the Chargers are at with this. Obviously they are preparing for it. Brandon Staley, I can't remember what show he was on last week, but he basically, touched on it and said that all of the free agency signings, everything that they were doing in the draft, it's all based towards, the contract that Justin Herbert will be getting. It's all going to be based around him, so it's about putting the best talent around him, while also being able to prepare for the financial hit that you're going to take. And that's just what the quarterback market is now. It's a market where guys are making ridiculous amounts of money, and it's a quarterback driven league. So obviously the quarterbacks are going to demand more money, and teams are most teams are at peace with it. There are some teams who are going to try to lowball and things like that, but I'm glad that the Chargers are really focused on this and are kind of doing a little long-term planning. So I kind of wanted to get into it. Website, SpotTrack.com. I believe that's how it's pronounced. SPOTRAC, SpotTrack.com. It gives all of the information for all of the major sports leagues. It gives all the contract information of the players. It will give the team's budget, pretty much. It'll go down, if you're looking at NFL, it'll go from 1 to 53 to practice squad guys. It'll give you information about dead cap, how much of the cap that the team is eating, once they trade or release a player. Very, very, very good website. I would, if you're into this, if you're into the little details of sports like that, I would suggest that you, create an account. They do offer a lot of information, and they do have valuable, articles that are related to, contract things and just different things. And they cover everybody. They cover all teams. They cover the NFL, the MLB, NBA, all the major teams. They cover them all. So, you guys should check it out if you're into it. But so basically what SpotTrack does, they just don't give information out. They pretty much, I don't want to say that they set values. They don't, for guys, they don't really do that like per se, like a hard value. But what they will do is they will give, a guy who is about to come up, right? So Justin Herbert's about to come up. So what SpotTrack will do, they will get about 7 to 8 quarterbacks who have already been paid at around the same time, that Justin Herbert is assumed to be paid. And what they will do is look at all these guys' contracts. They'll put them up against their stats and everything, and they'll basically come up with a, kind of compute what a guy's value is, right, more or less. And this is not a hard value, obviously. I don't think the NFL teams are like paying attention to this type of stuff, but it will give you a value of a neighborhood, ballpark figure of what a player is probably going to sign for on their next contract. So SpotTrack gave Justin Herbert's market value, $42.5 million, and that's annually. So annual salary, $42.5 million, which to me is pretty accurate. I think that's probably where he will be at. It could be more, and there's a likely chance that it could be more, especially if the Chargers make a deep playoff run, especially if there is AFC Championship, possibly Super Bowl. I don't even think the Chargers need to win the Super Bowl for Justin Herbert to make more money than that. I think even if they get to a Super Bowl, I think, you know, you're at a point where it's a blank check. But $42.5 million is what they set his annual salary at. And like I said, it's just comparing deals, so they're pretty accurate when it comes to this information. Now, this deal would be they would have him signing a 6-year deal at $42.5 million, which would equal $255 million for the total contract. And again, that's fair market value, and that puts him right in the range of Josh Allen. I think Josh Allen was like 258 or something like that. So that's pretty much where, you know, I see, you know, Justin Herbert signing and getting paid. But the thing is, and I'm going to add my little spin and my opinion on it, I think it is in the best interest of Justin Herbert, and I also think it's in the best interest of the Chargers if, you know, and that annual salary looks fine, right? 42.5, you can round it up to 43, 44, whatever. But I think it behooves both parties if a shorter deal is reached. And the biggest reason for that is, and I'm not saying, you know, we obviously, you know, the pandemic and it's my opinion that we're out of it. Some people still say that we're in it, whatever, right? I'm not here to argue that. But, you know, the pandemic kind of showed people, and, you know, all these teams and all of these leagues, they lost some revenue, right, with the fans not being able to be there. And that it has a trickle-down effect. You know, if the fans are not able to be there, they're not able to buy merchandise. They're not able to, you know, buy food and you know, overpriced beer, overpriced water. So it kind of trickles down, right? And you're not able to have the same impact with fans going to games, right? Local economies are stimulated whenever there's a big game around, whatever. There's just a trickle-down effect that it really does affect, you know, pretty much everything. And even with the rich TV deals that the NFL has, it's still a trickle-down effect, and there still was some lost revenue, right? There wasn't as much revenue being made during the pandemic, and we get it, we understand it. So, and not saying that this is going to happen again, but, you know, smart planning would say, you know, you should probably do something a little shorter than 6 years, so that way you can put yourself in a position to secure that money, and you're also putting your team in a position where you know, your team has more flexibility than other teams per se, right? Other than, you know, a Cleveland Browns who's paying Deshaun Watson all that money, right? That's what I think, you know, Justin Herbert and the Chargers should agree with. And then on that third contract, then he would really be able, you know, because at that point he's going to build up his resume, going to continue to build up his resume. You assume there's going to be playoff wins. You assume there's going to be, you know, a bunch of late game comebacks. There's going to be a lot of heroics. So that resume is going to be, you know, pretty much at the top again. And, you know, with the old guard assumingly not playing anymore, you know, Tom Brady is going to be gone by that point. Aaron Rodgers will be gone by that point. You know, you look at the older quarterbacks in the league, you know, Russell Wilson, he might be playing at that point, but he probably won't be playing at the level that he is, you know, been accustomed to playing to, you know, over the span of his career now. So you look at that, you know, you're gonna have some elevation just by process of elimination, and that's not even counting the you know, all of the stats and, you know, all of the great quarterback play that Justin Herbert is going to give the Chargers. So I think that third contract, he can really maximize his value at that point. And, you know, again, it might be a blank check situation, especially if there is Super Bowls, plural. If they're in the mix, then it's a blank check on his third payday. But I think it does behoove both parties to do something a little shorter than the 6 years, because Herbert can cash out, he can maximize his earnings if he does something short and then goes and signs big again. As opposed to, you know, doing a 6 or 7 year and then, you know, you're stuck in that contract. It's a good value, but again, the quarterback market right now is booming, right? You can say that it's booming, but once like I said, the old guys get out of here, and once these newer quarterbacks come in, and, you know, some of them are going to fail, a lot of them are going to fail, you know, he would be in a position to command the most money. And with the popularity of the NFL right now, you know, it behooves him to do a 4-year deal, be able to get out of that 4-year deal, and then really run it up, you know, because he might be able to make $60 million a year at that point, right? So not doing anything too long term, because the market is booming right now for quarterbacks, especially for good quarterbacks. Justin Herbert is a great quarterback, so it would behoove him to do something shorter than really cash it out on his third contract. You know, I think it does. If he was to do a 4-year deal, it would help the team so much as far as the long-term planning goes. This team is young. This is a younger team. There is some veterans mixed in and stuff, but for the most part, the core of this team is pretty young. You know, you look at Joey Bosa. He seems like he's been in the league forever. He's only like 26, I think. So he's still a young guy. He's still got some time left. But doing a shorter-term deal can really let the Chargers, Tom Telesco, if he's still around at that time, it can let them do some long-term planning, right? So if, you know, you look at a Bosa who you might have to replace, right? Maybe not with age, but he's had a concussion issue, so he might have to be a guy that's replaced at the end of the day, right? Khalil Mack is, I think he's 30 years old, so he might, you know, be replaced by the time Herbert's next contract comes. You know, anybody else, you know, if you're looking at, not necessarily just age, but if guys get banged up, if they get injured, you know, you look at Asante Samuel Jr., he's got concussion issues as well too. So you kind of want to do some long-term planning. You want to plan things out for the future. You want to be able to, you know where you're at as far as free agency goes, as far as the draft goes, what resources you're going to allocate, you know, in those two things, the draft and free agency. So it kind of gives the Chargers a clear game plan of what they're going to need, right? You have the quarterback locked up long term. So you're going to be able to pretty much plan out your next 4 free agencies. You're going to be able to plan out your next 4 drafts, and you know you're already going to go into those things knowing what you need, knowing what you need to shore up, and knowing what you need to spend money on. So that gives a team a very big advantage as far as personnel goes, you know. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't pay attention to. You know, if you look at the dynasties, everybody wants to talk about the Patriots and all this, and the one thing that nobody talks about is, you know, Belichick, Brady, they, you know, were there 20 years or whatever. The one thing that they did not have to worry about was the quarterback position and the salary cap position, right? You know, you have your quarterback, you have him, you know, he has enough weapons that he needs where he can be successful. Now you can go allocate your resources to other things. And I think that was the infrastructure in that organization allowed them to, you know, be so successful. And I think Brandon Staley is a smart guy, and I think he's trying to bring some of that to the Chargers. And if Herbert is on a 4-year deal, right, and it doesn't matter how much he makes, you know, he can make what the market makes, right? He doesn't have to take any less. I'm not advocating for that, but it will allow the Chargers to plan things out in, you know, in that way, be able to get guys that they need to get in order to, you know, replace the older players, the injured players, and all that stuff. It will allow them so much flexibility that other teams are not going to have, because other teams are going to be trying to fill the quarterback position along with the other things that they need, right? Which is kind of a guessing game. So it will give the Chargers so much more flexibility, and I think, you know, it does make a lot of sense, you know, even from the money standpoint. Like I said, in 4 years, if Herbert signs up for 42.5 next year, by the time his contract ends, the quarterback market might be 65 million, right? And he might be able to cash out then on his third contract. So it just makes sense all around. But, you know, either way you look at it, Herbert's about to get paid. And, you know, I think it's also something significant to point out too is Justin Herbert's personality, right? Nobody really knows all that much about him. He doesn't talk very much. He's not like super active on social media and all that stuff. Nobody really knows a lot about him. He seems to be a very quiet guy, and he seems to like football a lot. And that's the one thing I think is a positive right now that everybody can take away from. He is not on, you know, I've been watching NBA playoff games, you know, this whole time. I haven't seen him on one commercial, right? How many commercials did we see Baker Mayfield on, you know, for the last couple of years, right? A guy who was unproven and up and down and all that stuff. He was on every single commercial. How many commercials do you think Justin Herbert is getting offered that he does not take, right? He doesn't do that. He's not on TV all the time. So the money thing, him wanting to cash out and get as much money as he can and all that stuff, he doesn't strike me as a guy that has that mindset. Because if he did, we would see him all over TV. He's a young superstar quarterback with the Chargers. The Rams had, you know, Matt Stafford. I even seen Matt Stafford on the commercial before I seen Herbert on the commercial. Like, the Rams have a superstar quarterback as well too, but he's older. You know, he's got a few years left, maybe, you know, at that, and a few good years left at that. So Herbert's a young dude. He has LA in the palm of his hands, right? He can be on every commercial if he wanted to, but he is not. So that's a really good sign, and I think it is going to bode well when it comes to contract negotiations with him. Keep that in mind, because he could be on everything. He could be easily making $40 to $50 million off the field a year in endorsements, but I just don't think he's interested in all that. He seems to be interested more in football, more in the preparation part of it, and you know, he wants to barbecue on the weekends, whatever, and then just hang out and kind of stay out of the spotlight. Very important thing to think about when it comes to contract negotiations. And don't be surprised if he does take less when the contract is negotiated. I would not be surprised at all. Like I said, I'm not advocating for that. I would never advocate for that, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, because he wants to play football, and he wants to play football at a high level, and he wants to play football with guys who are, you know, just as talented as him, and guys who are just going to work just as hard as him, guys who are going to put in, you know, all that extra time to get better and to continue improving and all that stuff. So that's a very, very, very telltale sign. I've seen Baker Mayfield on a bunch of commercials. I haven't seen Justin Herbert on any commercials. The last commercial I seen him in was for Monday Night Football last year, and that was a NFL type of commercial. So I don't even know if he was paid for that, to be honest. So, but keep that in mind. I think his personality is going to allow him to take a team-friendly deal, and I think it is going to allow the Chargers to build the infrastructure up to have a dynasty. I'm not saying the Chargers are going to have a dynasty, but the infrastructure is going to be there, right? The infrastructure for success is going to be there every single season. All of the messy rebuilds and all this stuff that these teams do every 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, that's not going to be the case in the Chargers front office. There's not going to be any rebuilding. There's not going to be any, you know, retooling and wholesale changes and all that stuff. Like, you can, like I said, you can replace guys, but him, you know, being able to take deals that are going to help the Chargers out as well as lining his pockets very fat. But, you know, I think he is the type of guy that will take those deals, and I think it really does make for a much easier journey for the front office to put together Super Bowl contending teams that are going to compete, going to be in the Super Bowl bubble every single season. So that's something to look out for too as well. But that's pretty much all I got for this video. I kind of wanted to just cover this whole topic. Has gotten lost. It's gotten lost in the sauce, as they say, right? Everything has happened. There's a bunch of moves that have happened over the free agency period, the draft, all of that stuff. This has gotten lost, but this is going to come up, and this is probably going to be, you know, the number one, you know, topic, number one thing on the agenda for the Chargers to take care of next season. This is going to be the number one thing. Let's get our quarterback paid. Let's get him locked in. Then we can go down the line and we can fill everything else in from that point. So, but it starts with the head at the top. You got that guy, then, you know, everything else can be filled in, and, you know, you can compete, have success year in and year out, and, you know, at least be in competition. So, but that's pretty much my take on this thing, guys. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. If you like this video, if you like my content, please give me a thumbs up. It really does help me out in the algorithm. But that's all I got for now. I will be back later with the NFL schedule release. There's going to be a bunch of news going down. I'm going to make some videos, especially about the week 1 opponent. We will see who that is. But that's all I got for now, and I will see you guys later.